Welcome to the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks Show, a series designed to give you insight into the world of self-publishing and marketing your books. Featuring your hosts, Shannon, the author behind the pen name S.C. Huston, Ben Pick, and Jamie, writing under the pen name J.M. Chaley. Join us several times each month when we interview authors about their self-publishing and marketing journeys, talk to industry leaders, and discuss books about writing, self-publishing, and marketing.
Hi everyone, I am Ben Pick. I'm an urban fantasy author and authortuber, and we are here for the self-publishing tips and tricks. Today we have epic fantasy author Holly Bernabe. Before we talk to her, let's give some updates on whatever's happening in our lives. And as usual, we're recording this in advance. It's September 2024, so this episode will air in February 2025, and we're just kind of guessing where we'll be. Jamie, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So I'm Jamie. I go by J.M. Chaley. That's my pen name. I am an author of urban fantasy. I am also an authortuber on YouTube. My channel is author J.M. Chaley. And I am writing the second book, the sequel to The Unlife of Lisa Cooper. The first draft is complete. And I've kind of, as of this recording, I've kind of put it away so it can kind of marinate for a little while. And I'm going to get back to edits probably in a month.
Nice. And I'm Shannon. I write under the pen name of S.C. Huston, an author of fantasy romance. I have a passion for writing about broken characters who face adversity to become better versions of themselves. And there may or may not be dragons, but there's always love to find. And I have, this is again several months in advance. I have finished my full draft of my second book of my new series, which I think we mentioned on the last episode that we had. But when this goes out, fingers crossed, I've already got it done. I've already got my Kickstarter done, but I'm in the middle of revisions right now, and I'm realizing that my revisions are massive and I don't know. And I thought, well, if I can't run it in October, I need to wait until next year because November and December are not the months to run a Kickstarter. And I thought if I'm going to do it this year, it has to be October, but I don't think I'm going to be done in time with my revisions. So I don't know. We'll see where we're at. If my Kickstarter is done and over with, woohoo. If not, then when this airs, is probably in the middle of just having, or it's just started. Because if I do it later, it'll be the end of January when I start the Kickstarter. But yeah, there's my news.
Well, hopefully everything works out for you in the time between when we're recording this and when it airs.
Yay, thank you.
Now, Holly is a geeky, chaotic good cat lady and mom of 2 grown-ass kids living in the Central Oregon high desert. In her quest to learn the publishing business, she's discovered that Canva is a gateway drug to design. At 7 years old, Holly wrote her first story, a horror story about a 9-foot-tall stick of celery that followed her home and tried to eat her. Oof. She hates celery, I can guess, but that love of storytelling led her to a filmmaking degree with an emphasis on screenwriting. When the COVID lockdown came, Holly took advantage of all that time and wrote 3 novels in an epic fantasy series, which she's now editing. She published By Her Grace, the prequel to the fantasy series, in 2022. Since then, she has delved into multiple genres as H.L. Bernabe, writing a number of short stories and a couple of other books as well.
Hello.
Welcome, Holly.
Thanks.
Would you please take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and cover everything we missed?
Oh, well, I have a day job. I work as a manager of a parking facility at an airport out here. And it keeps me very busy. So I have to cram in all of my writing activities around that. But I also have started writing some like erotica, and I'm going to be publishing that under a pen name. So a different one. And I stay busy. Let me just put it that way.
I think that's like all of us.
Yeah. I get ideas and then, I need to make a note.
Yeah.
What they call that shiny new idea syndrome.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and those pesky day jobs definitely get in the way of our writing.
They do.
Well, thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself and what made you want to start writing. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. And can you tell us about your journey to self-publishing your first book?
Well, after I got my degree, I tried breaking into the filmmaking business, writing scripts and volunteering and doing all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, that didn't pay the bills. So I went back to my regular job at the time, which was truck driving. I was a long haul trucker for several years. And then my husband got sick and I had to come home and take care of him. And so during that time, I didn't do a whole lot of writing. I didn't, almost none. It was a very difficult time. And then after my husband passed, shortly after that, the the whole COVID thing came and we got shut down. And I was feeling like I really needed to write again. So I started. And those books, that epic fantasy, is really my cathartic release from after my husband died. And so much of him is in those books. And next thing I know, I have 3 of them written. I still have one more that I plan to do. And I'm thinking, wow, I should actually publish this. So I decided that I would do that. And I went into trying to figure out how that works, because I'd never been a novelist. I'd only done script writing and stuff. So looked into that, decided I would write the prequel because I thought, I'm pretty close to being done with book 1. And based on the summits, the workshops that I'd gone to, they said that if you give yourself like 6 months from the time of your editing to when you expect to publish, that should be good. And I thought, I'll give myself 8 months. And it ended up not being 8 months. So book 1 is still not published. But I did publish the prequel, and that was very exciting when I got that done. And that was my first one.
Oh, congratulations. And I'm so sorry that that's what, pushed you over into
Thank
the
you.
writing.
Thank you. It's been a few years now, so I'm
So.
So what drew you to self-publishing instead of traditional publishing? Was there anything specific about self-publishing that drew you to it?
Yeah, well, I like the idea of being in control of everything, but also when I went to Women in Publishing. They have a summit every year, and I went to the one in 2022 and 2023, and they talked about how it all worked and that versus traditional publishing, because they don't try to steer you one way or the other. They try to cover the whole thing, because either way, you're an author. Yeah. And so going to those, I learned what all it takes. And there's so much that you have to do with both, with the marketing and creating a platform and all those kind of things. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be doing all that work anyway. I may as well get paid for it. I may as well get all the royalties and not just a tiny percent. So I decided that I would self-publish, not to mention I did get told that when you have a series like I do, it gets increasingly harder to get published traditionally, because they don't want to take a chance, because if your first book ends up not doing well, they're not going to want to do the rest. So they want, standalones for a debut author. And I was like, so no, I'll just self-publish. And so that's what I'm doing.
Sometimes I forget how we met. When you mentioned the Women in Publishing Conference, I was like, oh yeah, that's where we met, with the Women in Publishing Conference 2022.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's where we all got together, because it was Janet J.L. Henker who said, hey ladies, do y'all want to get together and do a women's fantasy group? And we're like, sure. And so we've been meeting every month since then. It's kind of cool. And then I don't think I ever knew that you had a background in script writing. But like one of my favorite things that I like to quote, and I always forget who it is, and I just looked at it, William Goldman. It's a script writer. And I think that his process of writing a scene works really well for a novel writing, especially, and I'm trying to get into it more because I think this is what would help with like serial writing, which I'm not very good at. I know Jamie's done some serial writing, but he basically says you enter a scene late and you leave early. So you enter in the middle of action and you leave before it's completed, because that's what's going to draw your reader to want to read the next scene.
Right.
I'm not good at doing this, but I try to do it. But
yeah, unfortunately for me, when I first started writing my novels, because of my screenwriting background, that's what I was doing with everything. And like, it was with the action and the pacing, and it was like, people were like, whoa, slow down, which is partly why it's taking me longer to finish editing the book.
Well, they have this thing called, I say they, like I know who they are. I don't remember the names, but the author talked about this scene. They call it scene and sequel. So you have the scene, which is your action. And then your sequel it could be another chapter, or it could just be a single paragraph, but it is a moment of the character reflecting on what just happened and making a plan on what's going to happen next. And so that gives it the valleys, the ups and downs of writing. That is, especially if your reader is getting, what they call it, they get exhausted reading all these high points. So I try to think about that too, which doesn't always work with writing scenes that you have to leave early, because your sequel is like, where's it coming in the middle of the chapter, but then it slows down the pacing. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I think we're constantly learning as writers, I think. So, all right. So you mentioned that you did, and this is something that we talked about, but you mentioned to me that you did all the wrong things when it came to your first book. Can you tell us about that and what you have liked to have done differently?
I made a lot of mistakes. First was unrealistic expectations in terms of what I could do and what I couldn't pull off in the time that I had. I mean, like I said, I work full time, and so I'm trying to cram all this stuff in all of my weekends and evenings. And with self-publishing, we have to do everything ourselves. So it took a lot longer than I thought. And then, of course, on top of that, my cover was not the right cover. I did get a professionally cover done. Mibble Art did a fantastic job. I get a lot of compliments on the cover. Yeah, they did a great job. They did.
All of Ben's books were done by Mibbler.
Yeah, they took what was in my brain and put it on the cover somehow. And I don't know how they did it. They were brilliant. Unfortunately, what was in my brain was ignorant. Because I still didn't understand about what a good cover should look like, genre expectations, all those kinds of things. And so when people see the cover, beautiful as it is, they don't realize that it's, that it's fantasy. There's a cast iron pan with, and then there's a cake, and there's a crate, and there's like these. It doesn't look fantasy at all. Maybe the writing is, but that's about it. The font looks kind of fantasy. So you look at that and it's like, well, is this a cookbook? That's what people, this looks like a cookbook. Okay. No. So I have to change my cover, unfortunately. And and then I didn't have any kind of marketing plan, even though I had done all of this learning and summits and everything else. And I mean, I thought that I could do in that 8 months all of that stuff that they said in the summits and things for the book launch in a box program. It's like, no, I didn't have a platform, and not really. I had my newsletter, but there's not friends and family basically on it at that point. There wasn't a newsletter. Let's just put it that way. And so I had to build that, and you can't in just a few months. No, it needed a lot more, and I needed to do a lot more platform building and all those things. And so just time. I needed time. I needed to understand what kind of work needed to go into all of that, and it's a lot.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. We've all kind of been there when things end up taking a lot longer than we think they will.
Oh, yeah.
I think I remember going away to college freshman year and telling my brother, oh, yeah, I'll get at least half, the first half of the book done by the end of the semester, and it'll be all great. And years and years later, I still hadn't really
10 years, wasn't it? I think we did a video on this.
Yeah, it was more than 10 years for the first book. But it's part of it depends on where you count, me actually sitting down and starting to write versus me just fucking around. Having fun. Anyways, sorry, Holly. From your point of view, what has been your greatest publishing success?
Well, just having that first book was just so awesome. I got a letter from the Library of Congress, and I was just like, this is so cool. It's my copyright and all that. I was like, and then I don't know, it's just that first. There's just something about it. It gets you addicted and makes you want to do it again. And then on top of that, I was getting burnt out because of all the work I'd been doing. And I sent off a short story to an anthology. I was like, why not? And the very next day, the guy called me or emailed me and said, I want it. Next day, that never happens. It takes weeks.
Congrats.
That's awesome.
And I was like, I'm going to be an anthology. And this was year before last that happened. But it came at a time where I was just feeling like, this is so much work. I'm not seeing anything and I was like, it was one of those moments, and so getting that was validation, and so getting that little bit of validation was just enough. No, I'm going to keep going.
So if there was an aspiring self-publishing, an author that wanted to self-publish, hadn't done it yet, was really thinking about it, what advice or maybe some tips or tricks would you impart on that person?
First of all, I think programs and software and things like that are so incredibly helpful. I use both ProWriting Aid and AutoCrit at the same time. They have not just with editing, they with finding all your little mistakes and things like that. They also help you become a better writer with all the reports and things that they do. I've figured out which words are my crutch words and to stop using them, and how to make my words, my sentences more active, less passive. All of these kinds of things. And by running the reports on those, it's really helped. And then on top of editing, there's the design with Canva. It's my go-to. I love it. I love Canva. And Rocket, what is it? Publisher Rocket, I think is the name of it, that does with helping out
That's right.
genres and categories and all those kinds of things. And it's very, very helpful for marketing. And then, of course, for your formatting, Autocrit is indispensable. Like, I can do it myself. I can do formatting myself, and I don't have to pay other people to do it because of that program, and can save a ton of money doing that. So yeah, software and is your friend big time. It'll help save so much work and make it much better.
Awesome. We definitely agree.
Yeah. And
Definitely
then
do.
you can get them like in November when they have, the whole Thanksgiving sales and things like Black Friday sales and Cyber. You can generally get those lifetime memberships to like Pro Writing Aid and Autocrit and all that.
Not Autocrit. I've been
Not
waiting for Autocrit. Yeah.
Oh.
I waited 3 years to see if they would ever do a discount on the lifetime membership, and not in 3 years. They haven't done a discount. But it's not the same price either.
I've gotten it. I've seen it offered for lifetime. I actually purchased it lifetime, but that was when I was, I think, going to one of the Women in Publishing Summits. I got it through them.
And a lifetime deal, it's not on their website. You actually have to like Google Autocrit lifetime deal, and it will give you like a countdown. So you have to buy it within this amount of time to get it for this amount. But again, for 3 years, I've been waiting for a coupon or some type of discount, and it's never changed. So the countdown doesn't mean anything.
So sorry, because I grabbed that the moment I could. I grabbed that, and
I could finally get it this year.
Oh, yeah,
but
it's just money doing it that way.
I think it's like $350 basically for the lifetime. But on their website, it's annual or monthly, and it's a whole lot more. Like if you pay for 3 years of it, monthly or annually, it's about that same $350. So I was like, well, I know I'm going to be using it longer than 3 years, so I might as well just. I mean, I've already been waiting 3 years for it, so I might as well just get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, Pro Writing Aid has a discount every so far in the 3 years I've been watching with Autocrit. It's had the same discount for Pro Writing Aid lifetime. It's like a 50% discount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Way worth it. Way worth it. And the nice thing about the Pro Writing Aid is it goes on everything. So like if you're on your email or you're in your writing program or anything, it keeps track, and you can edit whatever you're working on, which I like.
So you talked about how this is all taking a lot of time, and that's something that's really demotivated you, was how much time this was all taking you, and it helped to get into the anthology. And I think a good takeaway here is perseverance. You persevered. You didn't have to. So
it helps if you are stubborn.
Yep.
I actually that was going to be one of my words I'm using in the next interview that we're doing. So the next podcast episode we're doing. I like it because it starts with an S. My name starts with an S too. And I'll take Shannon for stubborn. I'm going to keep on going. But all right, so let's transition from your publishing to your marketing. Can you tell us about your marketing plan?
Oh, well, when I first started, like I mentioned, I didn't really have one. I had an idea of one based on what I learned with Book Launch in a Box and all those kinds of things, but it quickly fell apart because I didn't have any of the stuff set up that I needed. Like I didn't really have my newsletter going well, and I didn't have the platform going well. So right now, I'm really focusing on building that. I'm building my platform, building my newsletter, getting the followers that I need, the subscribers that I need, keeping up with my website and doing occasional blogs. And then, of course, I'm trying to really do a lot more, engagement with people on Threads and Instagram and chat with authors and Instagrammers, networking, exactly. Because that is really helpful. You get influencers to toot your horn for you, and it's going to do so much better than if you just did it yourself. And so I'm working on that. And hopefully by the time I'm actually ready to do my book one, I'll have much better foundation for when I get it published and I can do my launch.
So I would say, because I've been in a lot of conversations where we've been talking, in our women's meeting group every month, there's a lot you're doing. I don't think that you're giving yourself credit for when it comes to marketing, to be honest, because you're doing a lot. You're reaching out, you're doing the newsletter itself is a marketing tool, and you've been working on that steadily for like the last year. And so I would say, you are doing all the things you need to do. It's just a slow process. Like you said, it's really slow.
Yeah, it takes way longer than I think people realize. Like I remember at Women Publishing, they were saying in the summit, they were saying that the moment you think you're going to write a book, you should start. And they were so right. They were so right, because it takes time. It
Mhm.
takes time.
And being here on the podcast is more marketing.
Yes, more marketing, more podcasts. I would love to be able to do more of this stuff. This is great.
Oh, we'd love to have you back on here. And also, you mentioned, you were in women in marketing, you reached out to booktubers, Instagram, whomever. Was there any marketing that you've learned about that you're excited to try?
Yeah, actually, thanks to Shannon, book launch teams, street teams and things like that. That whole, because I'm an introvert, and so that idea was terrifying to me. I was just like, I don't know
Everybody.
about this. Shannon gave a presentation in the group that we're in that broke it down, and it actually looks fun. I'm like, oh hey,
It was fun. I had a blast doing it.
yeah, it's like I can do that. That looks fun. Okay, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying that, and I'm looking forward to doing a Patreon as well. I think I want to actually offer my book, the chapters, on my Patreon, and build up more following that way. I'm crossing my fingers that'll do well, because I've heard a lot of people do that and it works well for them. So that's another thing I'm looking forward to trying out.
We just had an episode that we had air. It was really quick put together because what we were planning fell through. And that was our most recent one, where we talked about Ream, because I'm on Ream, which is like a Patreon, but it is a platform made by authors for authors. And it's still brand new. So it doesn't have a lot of the functionality that Patreon may have, but it also has things that Patreon doesn't have, because it is strictly around authors. But there's the Storytellers Rule the World, I think is the podcast. And they are the ones behind Ream, but they've interviewed people from Patreon and other places. They've Christopher Hopper, he does his own subscription service on his website, and now he has a HopperCon. So it's a conference all about him, and he has hundreds of people who show up. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's like, wow, I want that following.
Yeah.
The one thing that I love about the podcast is that it will touch on all the different models of what a subscription platform can look like, because some of us are not going to be a HopperCon. I'm not going to be a HopperCon. I don't build my brand around me as a person. I'm not that engaging or charismatic. I've seen Christopher Hopper talk in person. He's very charismatic. So I'm not that person. So I won't have a HopperCon, but there are other models I've listened to. I'm like, wow, I think I could do that one, and I can reach my readers that way. So I suggest that one if you're interested in it.
Okay, I'll check that out.
So for the same kind of thing, but with marketing, if there was an aspiring author, what would you do? What is your, self-marketing tip or trick that you would pass on to a hopeful?
I think for me, the biggest, most helpful thing is about attitude. For me, marketing is the thing that I don't like it. I've never liked sales. I've avoided sales jobs my whole life. And I worked at a nutrition store for 3 years, and I helped people there, and I read up on all this stuff, and I would point them out things. And that was sales. But I never thought of it as sales, because I was knowledgeable about the product. I enjoyed the products. I enjoyed helping people find what helped them and was good for them. But it was still sales. And so like our books are like that. If I'm helping someone find something that they might like, why is it okay to, show someone about, vitamins, but not okay to tell people about my book that I wrote that might be something that they would like, I think part of it with sales is, we're tooting our own horn or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, I worked really hard on it. I mean, I've spent literally thousands of hours on my series. Like it's insane the amount of work that goes into these things. And so, yeah, I should toot my own horn. Why not? Let people know about it, and people appreciate it. If they want to find a good book, and and they find your book, and you help them find, they like that. Like I've made some fans, I guess, for lack of a better word. It feels weird saying fans, but yeah, fans who, I talk with them, engage with them on social media all the time now, because they discovered my book and we talk, and it's just like, oh, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, so sales, no, it's not bad. Marketing is a good thing. And don't be afraid of it. Yeah. Feel the fear, do it anyway.
I definitely think that it's harder when you're trying to sell fiction, right? Because if you're trying to sell nonfiction, you're probably offering some type of solution to a problem. So that's easier to sell.
Right.
But when you're trying to sell fiction, then you're selling more on like ideas and emotions and things like that. So it's harder. It's harder to wrap your mind around that and how to sell that.
Yeah.
And it feels like a piece of us, because our souls are in those books.
Yes. And if someone doesn't like it,
it's like, they don't like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could hurt the heart a little bit, but yeah, I understand that. All right, so now we're going to transition from your marketing to your writing life and your work. So, what does your typical writing life look like? Now, we know that you have a very busy job, and you're very, got lots of stuff going on. So, how do you plan, or do you plan for your set periods of time of writing, or is it like, do you have word count goals, or is it like time goals? What do you do?
Well, for me, Nano has been in just, and I don't even necessarily join up with the Nano. I just use that month as my writing month. I write like heck during that month. I don't take any gigs for editing or anything else during that month. I write like crazy. So that's one thing that I do. I also, right now, actually, I'm in the process of going through and trying to reevaluate how much time I'm actually spending on everything. And I've tried a couple of different project management softwares to help, and I haven't been too happy with them. But I just discovered Google Calendar does a lot of the things that I need. It has tasks. I can put things. It's helpful. So far I'm really liking it for keep track of everything. And so I'm actually scheduling time for my writing, and I'm scheduling time for my editing, and I'm scheduling all these different things. That way it's all blocked out and I know what to expect, and that helps. I'm still figuring out how much I can actually do during those time blocks, because that I do tend to think that I can do more than I really can, but I'm learning, and so that helps. And then I try to write a short story at least once every other month, and get one of those out. So that way I have more extra reader magnets and things like that, because you use the same thing over and over again. People are like, oh yeah, it's just that person, Yeah. So
What are you working on next? Can you tell us about your next book and when it'll come out?
yeah, well, I am currently working on a novella, potentially short novel. It's about half done, about a dragon that is starting an all-female sorcery school. And yeah, so that hopefully actually should be done by the time this podcast airs. Cross fingers. And then I'm also I should have the Patreon set up by then, although I'm going to look into that reading suggestion instead. I don't know, but and that should also be in effect by that time as well. So people can look for me on those or for that. And then I have other things that are on the back burner, but I want to finish my book one first.
Love anything with dragons.
Oh yeah, dragons are. Oh, everybody loves dragons, right? Like you can't have fantasy without dragons somewhere.
Yep.
There's an entire series I'm watching right now, which is kept alive based solely on dragons.
Yeah. Well, I have dragons in my epic fantasy series, but they're just more minor characters, kind of on the outside, and they're pulling the strings basically. People don't really see that. So I actually wanted to have a character that's a main character be a dragon, and so that's what I'm writing.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, we'd like to shift into something a little bit different, and we would love to do a round of rapid fire questions where we answer each question as quickly as possible. So are you up for it?
Sure.
Perfect. What comes first for you? Character, setting, or plot?
Character. For absolutely character. I'm filmmaking background.
Are you a morning writer or a night writer?
I'm a morning person, but I write at night. Because the only time I have energy for my chores is morning, so that's when those get done.
Yeah.
Planner, pantser, or plantser?
Plantser. Yeah.
Coffee, tea, or hot chocolate?
Coffee.
Complete this sentence. The best thing about writing is
Creativity. Yeah. Yeah. Being creative, putting things on a page and making them real. I mean, real in people's minds, but real. They're real to me, real to the people who read them.
Favorite fantasy trope to read?
You know what? Lately, I've been really enjoying older characters. It's not really a trope per se, but I've been really enjoying seeing more of that show up. So I think it's becoming one.
Favorite fantasy trope to write?
Well, right now I have a young woman who's a chosen one, essentially, who doesn't want to be a chosen one. So that's what I'm writing at the moment for my series.
favorite fantasy novel.
That's hard. I have two actually that are towards the top. I love anything Terry Pratchett, but I really, really liked Monstrous Regiment. So much fun. And then the other one is V.E. Schwab, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. That's just
I've been hearing a lot about that book.
Phenomenal book. Yeah, just phenomenal.
If you could write any other genre, what would it be?
Probably horror or thriller. And I do, actually.
Oh, and erotica, right? Coming up.
Yeah. I'm dipping my toes in that. Just because that one, that's fun.
Oh boy. Well, you have answered all of our questions. Before we wrap up, can you please tell listeners where they can find you and get your book?
Okay. Well, my By Her Grace is available on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. Otherwise, it's $2.99 for a copy. And then I have a website, hlbernabe.com, and you can find me there. And then, of course, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads. I have a Facebook account, although I don't use it very much. But those are all either author HL Bernabe or HL Bernabe. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Well, Holly, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your insight and experience. I hope that by the time this comes out, that you have everything set for your first book. You're going through your, just doing awesome with Patreon and or Ream, whatever you choose to do. And I hope everything goes well for you with your upcoming releases.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope so too.
And thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. Next up on the podcast will be February 15th, and we'll be talking to Evan Gao, who independently designed and developed Story Origin, a cross-platform marketing tool for authors. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much to our incredible listeners and viewers for joining us on our exploration of everything self-publishing. We hope you found our podcast to be a treasure trove of insights and inspiration. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform or thanks on our YouTube episodes. Don't forget, you can catch all of our past episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms. Keep writing, keep publishing, and we'll see you next time.